So what we're going to talk about today is how to get up and running to prepare to sell final expense insurance. I'm going to give you the same advice I give my agents in DeFord Insurance Group on what they need to focus their time and effort on in the first initial period of time to be as prepared and as trained as much as possible to go out there and sell final expense either face-to-face or over the phone. So let's get started. Greetings and salutations, guys. It's David Duford here, owner of DeFord Insurance Group, where I train and recruit agents nationally to sell things like final expense, Medicare, and annuities, both face-to-face and over the phone. Please make sure you subscribe and like if you happen to like this content. So we're going to jump right in, guys. So I'm going to give you my blueprint of how to prepare to sell final expense, what you need to study, what you don't need to study, and where you need to put your focus on. So let's jump right in. I got my list here in front of me. First of all, what I recommend, guys, is setting a deadline of selling from the point that you contract, okay, to actually being in the field on the phone or face-to-face, somewhere in the neighborhood of 15 to 20 days into the future. What I think is important to understand, guys, is you don't want to be aggressively getting ready, meaning endlessly preparing for weeks or months on end without actually dipping your little toe in the water and giving this business an honest college try. You can only study so much before you got to get out there and do it in order to learn anything new. And I believe 15 to 20 days is the absolute maximum if you're serious about this business that you should give yourself before jumping in. We actually have a program called the Fast Track program that cuts this time of readiness down by half, where you do a lot more studying, but you get sales ready in 7 to 10 days, work some age leads or Facebook leads to get moving faster. But you got to give yourself the amount of time that's appropriate and necessary. And then at that point, if you've actually earnestly been studying like you should, the next step is to go out there and do it, screw up a few times, learn from your mistakes, and rapidly improve based off of your experience and the feedback that you get from your trainer or from somebody else. The next thing is I recommend on the 15 to 20 day period of time to study somewhere between 2 to 3 hours a day on your material. Guys, I don't care if you have a full-time job and you're doing this part-time. Anybody who actually cares about success in their life, you can find 2 to 3 hours of time to study. That means you got to get up at 5 in the morning? Do it. Does that mean you got to stay up later at night? Do it. Does that mean you got to miss out and watching Netflix and wasting time on useless activities? Do it. Because this business is worth it. The kind of things that it can provide you, it's worth a little bit of your time that you've got to make for it. Now, out of those 2 or 3 hours that you set aside to study, I recommend 2 of those hours be set aside in sales training, and then 1 of those hours set aside in carrier training. Here's the thing, guys. It's not the carriers that sell insurance. It's you. You are the most important variable to selling an insurance policy, which means you should spend most of your time learning the script and learning the tactics to connect, convince, and close your insurance sales prospects. The carriers, you'll learn over time. You'll master the underwriting. That'll all come with your focus and execution of this strategy, which is why I don't think you should spend an inordinate amount of time on it, because it's not the products themselves that do it. It's you and your connection relationship with the client. Never lose sight of that, guys. And it's likely that most people think it's all about the product. And yeah, it's important, but you don't need to spend more time on the product. You need to spend more time on the setup and the sales procedure, because that's what's going to convince people to trust you and suggest to them which product to use and ultimately do business with you. So what should you actually study in the sales training portion of the training? So let's go through this list here. So I think I kind of mentioned this. Studying your script is vital. Okay, that's where you should spend most of that time, that 2 hours a day, reviewing inside of that actual script. Okay, and what I recommend is a couple of different variations of studying the script. You should read it quietly. You should read it out loud. You should grab a friend, a family member, your dog, and have them play prospect so that you kind of have some synthetic similar experience like you would in front of a prospect. They ask you questions. You kind of have to think on your toes. This is really important to do all this stuff just to get comfortable delivering the actual presentation. You should also be recording yourself giving the presentation, of course, because recording yourself, you hear yourself. And you're going to get great feedback just listening to how you actually sound on camera or on audio, and make some adjustments naturally. Oh, I didn't know I sounded like that. Let me make that change and make a note. That's going to be very valuable to you. Of course, for your training, no matter where it is you're going, you should absolutely attend live training if you can on Zoom or in person, depending on where you're at. We at DeFord Insurance Group really like reviewing sales calls from actual agents in the field or over the phone to hear what it's actually like. That helps you envision what you're about to experience and kind of what you're going to be actually up against. You should also participate in mock presentations if your agency offers them. Again, just to give you some close to real life experience of thinking on your toes and going through a presentation. And this gives you that, again, read and react skill set training that's so vital in your development of thinking on the spot and dealing with any kind of objections or issues. And if optional, if available, you should also look at ride-along opportunities where you get to experience firsthand what it's like to sell, or experience firsthand what it's like to sell over the phone, face-to-face or over the phone. If this is optional, I don't think it's necessary to start with. It might actually be better after some initial experience, because what I discovered doing ride-alongs with new agents for years is you have no idea what you're looking at. It's like drinking through a fire hydrant, right? Once you understand the script and the process, you can make a lot more sense of the performance that's going on. It's like if you watched football and you never saw it before, and you're just like, oh, wow, Tom Brady's just throwing a ball. Like, no. But I'm sure somebody who's experienced understands the dynamics of the plays and how they react to what the defense is doing. And there's a much more meaning to reviewing tapes at that point after you understand the game. Likewise, same thing in selling insurance. It's going to be a lot more meaningful after you kind of know what's going on. Now, again, you should spend an hour a day inside of studying the carriers. And what I recommend on the carriers is don't study all the carriers available, guys. You should start with 4 or 5 carriers at most, maybe even less in certain organizations. You don't want to spend time learning 10 or 12 carriers. Your time is valuable. You don't have the time to be overwhelmed by that stuff. Make sure you're reading the agent guide front to back. Most of you guys won't do it, but you need to, because all the answers that you need are in there. The carriers put the stuff together, guys, so they don't have to take phone calls over basic questions. And if you just read it, you'll be surprised at what you find in there. Make sure you familiarize yourself with your cheat sheet or underwriting software. A lot of you guys have access to this stuff. Know how to use that stuff, how to navigate it. That will help you kind of figure out which product is going to be best for your clients. And do make sure you really spend time understanding how to complete an application. Apps now are digital or voice authorization focused. Know how to complete an app. Run through one if you can. Know what you're going up against before you go out there. The last thing you want to do is have a buyer and you screw it up because you submitted the app wrong or forgot something. That's pretty painful. Make sure you order leads at time appropriate depending on the style of leads you're ordering. For example, if you're doing direct mail, you need to order that pretty quickly and getting up and running, because with direct mail, it takes 3 or 4 weeks generally before you get the leads. And if we're having a 15 to 20 day timeline, you're going to have to put those lead orders in pretty quickly. Facebook leads, internet leads, telemarketing leads, whatever kind of leads you're working, those can be as get with your trainer to tell you, but you may put those orders in a couple of days out, maybe a week out, depending on what you're working with. But make sure you get that order in and time it to when you want to start selling. You don't want to work a bunch of old leads, especially digital leads, because the shelf life is pretty short. Last but not least, guys, do not get cold feet doing this. You can study and study and study, but it's all for nothing if you don't actually go out there and execute. I have looked at a lot of business opportunities over the years, especially earlier on when I wasn't dialed in and focused in insurance. And I studied and prepared and got ready and never pulled the trigger and wasted a whole bunch of time never doing anything and just aggressively getting ready. It is a real problem in this society we live in. There's so many opportunities, especially in the insurance business, and there's so much distractions pulling our attention away from focus and execution. Guys, don't be that guy that wastes an agency's time and never pulls the trigger. If you're going to do this, for the love of God, please do it, because this business is great. And you're wasting people's time if you're not, plus your own. And you should be ashamed of yourself if you never execute a strategy that you learned because of your own fear and cold feet. Hope you enjoyed this video, guys. I'm going to wrap it up here. This is kind of a good blueprint of what I like to do and what I like to follow in the insurance business and getting a new agent up and running and ready. If you'd like to learn more about how joining my agency works, click the links above or below. It'll take you to my webpage to learn more. And thank you guys for watching. Y'all take care.